How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have two stories for you, the two most spoiled kids I have ever heard of. I know you'll enjoy the story, so sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel, watch this video on Spotify if you want to, link in the description, and let's just jump right into it. So anyways, we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the first story Chris. So anyways, Chris was in class, and during this class, there was a project you had to do where it's a very common project that you get in school. It's the what do you want to do when you grow up project. So Chris, at this point in his life, was in 3rd grade, so he was pretty young at this point, and he was basically given the week to make a little summary of what he wanted to do, and then at the end of the week on Friday, present it to everyone in the class. There was also a kid in Chris's class who we're just going to call the spoiled kid, and he was kind of known as the spoiled kid because he always just acted very entitled. He always had nice fancy stuff on, or always had new clothes or whatever. And most notably is he always became his dad drove this sports car to come pick him up, which, bro, why are you driving the Lambo to pick your kid up from 3rd grade? But anyways, right, he was kind of known as a spoiled kid, and that's kind of irrelevant for right now because Chris really wanted to be a firefighter at that point in his life. So he went back home. He asked his mom if he could go and get a firefighter costume from a Halloween store. They went, they found one, they got it. Chris looked up or asked his mom to help him learn some information about being a firefighter, and he put together a nice little presentation. So now on the day, it is now Friday, it's the day that everyone is presenting, and anyways, right, so, everyone is sitting there. A lot of people are either in costumes, or maybe they have a poster board. Chris happens to be in costume and has a poster board, but you know who doesn't have either, really? The spoiled kid. The spoiled kid literally has neither. He's just sitting there. And people are kind of looking over what's going on, bro? Why does this kid not have anything? That's kind of crazy. And they're like, I don't know. Or Chris is like, maybe he has something memorized in his head. Maybe I just can't see what he has to present or whatever. But sure enough, it's time for Chris to go up there. Chris goes up, nails his presentation, says, I want to be a firefighter, says a bunch of firefighter facts, and sure enough, more people go up. There's doctor, lawyer, astronaut, chemist, mad scientist, SpongeBob SquarePants. There's a lot of professions that people go up and say that they want to do, and that's when it's time for the spoiled kid. So the teacher's going down the list and reading out names. It's like, all right, spoiled kid, it is your time to go up. And the spoiled kid is he looks up, he's like, whatever. And he walks up to the front of the class. And he said, when I am older, I want to be rich. And everyone's kind of sitting there okay. And the teacher was kind of looking at him and the spoiled kid's like, that's it, that's my presentation. And the teacher's like, wait a second, spoiled kid. Are you telling me that the only thing that you did was say that I want to be rich and you're done with it? That's all you did? And the spoiled kid's like, well, yeah. And the teacher's like, okay. Because, at this point, they didn't really have grades. They got a check plus or a check minus or something, but it really didn't affect them at this point. They were only in 3rd grade. So the teacher wasn't like, I'm going to fail you. But the teacher's like, well, maybe you can add a little bit more on the spot. And the spoiled kid's like, well, I want to be wealthy too. Which bro, rich and wealthy is basically the same thing in a sense. And the teacher's like, no, what are you gonna do to become rich? The spoiled kid's like, I'm just gonna become rich. And at this point the teacher's like, what do you mean? And the spoiled kid is like, well, some people when they're born, they're just born better than other people, and they just become rich. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, people aren't born better than other people. Everyone is born the same at birth. That's ridiculous. And the spoiled kid's like, well, then why do I have all this cool stuff in my house? And when I go to other people's houses, they don't have that cool stuff. Remember, bro was in 3rd grade, but still, what? The thing is, bro, this is definitely the parents coming in and telling some kind of brainwashing right here. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, that is super disrespectful. Everyone has different opportunities and disadvantages in their lives. Just because your parents were able to I'm sure that they worked very hard, but there's also a bit of luck involved in that. You got to be great. Like, you got to be grateful for all that. You can't just say that you got that because you deserve it. Like, you were just happened to be born from them. And the spoiled kid's like, well, I don't understand. Like, I thought the way the world worked was like, if you are rich, that just meant you were better. And poor people are poor because they're worse. And the teacher is just staring at the spoiled kid with his mouth like wide open. And everyone else in class is like kind of turning around, like talking to each other, like, dude, what did this kid just say? Did he just say I was worse because my parents make less? He said I'm inherently worth less? Like, what? And the spoiled kid said, yeah, like what? And he said also, what does like job have to do with money? And he's like, isn't it just like the poor people have jobs and then, the better people, aka rich people, just they're just able to sit there? And the teacher's like, no, like you make money from your jobs. The spoiled kid's like, oh. Okay, well then I want to be really rich when I grow up. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, you don't understand. Like, you were put in a fortunate position where your parents have done well. Like, that's awesome. That's great. Whatever, right? But that's not a job. Just having money is not a job. That's not how this works. And everyone could kind of tell that the teacher was starting to get a little bit upset because, look, being a teacher is a thankless profession, right? You have a lot of snotty kids in your class that don't care what you're doing. You also don't get paid at all. Most of the time, teachers are doing it because they believe that their work is important, teaching the next generation of kids. And that is really the only way they get paid, in gratitude. Or not gratitude, but just like knowing they're doing something important. So this teacher was a little mad that this kid, the spoiled kid, was basically like, well, I plan to do nothing and be really lame when I grow up. Like, I'm just going to sit there and, fiend off all the money I'm going to get in my inheritance. Basically what this kid was saying. So anyways, right, the spoiled kid is like, I don't understand. And, the teacher's like, okay, pick a profession, spoiled kid. Pick a profession. And the spoiled kid is starting to get angry himself. He's like, I just want to be rich. I don't care what you're saying. And the teacher is like, that's not a profession. Choose a job. What do you want to do? And this is when the spoiled kid says, Daddy says I don't need a job because he's so rich he'll pay for everything I ever want. And that's when everyone in the class is like, hey, yo, bro, what? Huh? And sure enough, right, the teacher's like starting to get a little upset as well. And the teacher's like, you know what? Let's pretend you had to contribute to society in some way. Let's pretend. So, I mean, look, it's a grown adult fighting with a little kid. So, I don't know if anyone's really the person in the right here. I don't think the kid saying that, like, everyone is inherently worse than him because his parents have money is in the right. But I also don't think an adult fighting with a kid's in the right either. But anyways, right, so it's a heated match. And Chris is just sitting there very awkwardly, very uncomfortable. And that's when the spoiled kid starts to, he basically loses it. He starts saying, just because you poor, broke individuals with no money, are mad at me and are jealous for what I earned. I earned, bro. Congrats on being the right sperm that went to the right cell. Congrats. I don't know. What are you saying? But anyways, he's like, you guys are all so jealous. I can smell the jealousy from here. Oh, man, it reeks of jealousy because you guys are all jealous and haters. I hate how hatery you guys are. You're all jealous and you suck and because you're poor and broke and lame. And the kid literally runs out of the classroom. And he just, at this point, right, the teacher's like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? And the teacher's like, okay, class, please ignore what just happened. Let's continue on. And basically what happens, the spoiled kid ran out, went to his backpack. They have to keep their backpacks outside. They go out and they grab their books or whatever. And he grabs his, portable phone. He dials up the number for his dad. And within 30 minutes, his dad arrives at the school. And so anyways, Chris is in class, they're finishing up their presentations when the spoiled kid and the spoiled kid's dad barge through the door. And the spoiled kid's dad is looks at the teacher and says, my son says that you were shaming him for us being successful. Is this true? And the teacher said, today was supposed to be career day. Your son went up there and just said, I want to be rich. So I kind of just pressed him and asked him, okay, well, what career path do you want to do to obtain such status and wealth, right? And he said that, he's going to be rich because he deserves it. We're poor because we don't deserve it. And that, you're going to basically pay for everything that he ever wants and that he doesn't need a job. And his dad says, and? You got mad at my son for saying that? That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly true. And the teacher's like, wait, so you believe that, like, the reason why some people are poor and some people are rich is that they're just born as worse off, like they're not as good of a person? And the spoiled kid's dad is like, yeah, that's exactly what I think. And he looks down at his son and he says, you know what, son? Good for you. You're taking on like your old dad. Like, you know what? Let's go home. I'm going to take you out for ice cream. The spoiled kid's like, yay, ice cream. And the kid and the father walk off. This is kind of a sad story because, look, at the end of the day, a lot of times views and opinions of kids are really just formed from their environment. And a lot of times parents are like kind of like the main factor in determining what that environment will be. So this is kind of an unfortunate story, but it is what it is. And yeah, so Chris, like, remember, this happened a long time ago for Chris, and this kid kind of a little bit grew out of it. He was always kind of been spoiled and entitled, even as he got older, but he wasn't as bad as this. For the next spoiled kid story, we're going to call the subscriber Clarence. So anyways, Clarence was at a restaurant, and it was a bit of a fancier restaurant. It wasn't like drive-through McDonald's or something. It was a bit of a fancier sit-down restaurant, and Clarence and his parents sat down next to another table that probably just got there a couple minutes before them. It was a mom, a dad, and a son. This son was probably he was on the younger side. He might have been the 4th or 5th grade or something. But this son, we're just going to call the spoiled kid because, oh my God, he was the spoiled kid, right? So first of all, Clarence was watching, and, Clarence's parents said, hey, no phones, no iPads, no devices or anything at the table. When you're sitting at the table, please pay attention to, the other people there. It's important to, maintain conversations. And I think that's a good thing, personally. I try and uphold that as much as I possibly can. But anyways, right, Clarence was looking over, and there was a kid, the spoiled kid, had his big old iPad, and he was just on it, and he had the iPad on the table. And Clarence saw the spoiled kid's mom be like, so, spoiled kid, how was school today? And spoiled kid's like, shut up, Mom, I'm watching Minions. And he's just on his iPad. And, the spoiled kid's dad is like, son, it's not polite to talk to your mother like that. He's like, shut up, Dad, I'm on my iPad watching Minions. And at this point, Clarence is like, wow, this kid's like a real jerk. Like, bro, look, your parents, first of all, they're the ones who raise you. They put a house over your head. They gave you that iPad. You've done none of this before. Yes, they brought you into this world, so, you're entitled to a little bit. But come on now, have a little bit of respect when everything you have in life is because of them. Don't be like, bro, I'm watching Minions, I'm too busy. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. That's ridiculous. And sure enough, right, Clarence watches as this kid is like, shut up, Mom, I'm watching Minions, I'm going to be on my iPad. And so sure enough, right, the spoiled kid's parents kind of give up, which, look, if I'm going to be a parent, I'm not giving up. I'm not tolerating disrespect like that. But anyways, right, so sure enough, this kid is on his iPad, and he says he doesn't have the volume down low. He literally has the volume cranked up to the maximum. Yes, this was a restaurant with a lot of people. There was noise. There was ambiance. But within that ambiance, you could hear Minion Rush gameplay. It was the loudest thing in the room. And the thing is, right, maybe the person sitting at the end, very far away, couldn't hear, the Minion Rush in the background from this iPad. But since Clarence and his family were sitting right next to them, their conversation was being drowned out by Minion sounds. From the movie. He's like, oh my God. And the thing is, right, this spoiled kid, you might be thinking, wow, this kid's disrespecting his parents, and he's on his iPad being super loud. This must be the worst he gets. No, trust me. He gets so much worse. Real quick, comment spoiled if you made it this far into the video. I really would appreciate it just to see who made it this far. Also, if you want to support the channel, literally just continue watching these videos. I keep on seeing comments from people saying, I've watched 5 videos today. I've watched 20 videos this week. I just want to let you know that when I see those comments, I try and heart them as much as I can. And even if I don't, just know I really appreciate it because watching a bunch of videos is what is helping the channel get promoted as much as it is. So I really, really, really do appreciate it. And also, yes, we are on Spotify. It is linked in the description. But also, if you look up Connor Pugs, it'll be the only Connor Pugs podcast, I do believe. And you can watch these videos on the go or whatever, right? And also, don't forget to use code ConnorPugs on GamerSupps for 10% off. It helps me, It helps you. You'll love to see it. And finally, if you want to submit your own stories, these are subscriber submitted stories, go to my Instagram account, Connor Pugs. It's also in the description. Follow me and then DM me your stories. And don't say, oh, I have a story. Do you want to hear it? Just DM me the stories. A lot of times, even if I use the stories, I won't even respond, just in case I change my mind a little bit later. So always be checking in with the videos to see if your story was used. And also, if I do use your story, there's a good chance I alter most of the details just to make sure that it doesn't get back to the person and you get in trouble. And also just keeping it good like that. Anyways, let's get back to it. So sure enough, Clarence is listening over. And the other table with the spoiled kid, they get their food, right? Like, food was given out, like, handed over. And, you know, on this, like, dish or whatever, there was, like, a main course. And then there was, like, vegetables. And the thing is, right, I get it. If you don't like your vegetables, you don't like your vegetables. There's not a lot that I can do about it personally. I think you should eat your vegetables. I think that it's important to eat your greens. However, if you don't, whatever, man. I'm not in charge of you. However, what you should not be doing is taking your broccoli and throwing it across the room to random people. That's not what you should be doing, to say the least, right? So anyways, this, you know, Clarence is sitting there, and he's not even looking at the spoiled kid's table when he feels something hit his face. And he looks down at the table, and there's a piece of broccoli on the frickin' table, bro. There's a piece of broccoli on the table. And sure enough, right, you know, he looks over, and the spoiled kid is picking up the broccoli on his plate and chucking it across the room. Boom, boom, just like throwing it across the place, hitting other people. They're looking over, and the spoiled kid's mom is like, spoiled kid, don't throw your food. Don't, like, this is not a food fight. Like, have some respect. And the spoiled kid's like, shut up, Mom. I'm going to do whatever I want. And at this point, right, you know, Clarence is looking over. He's like, wow, like, this is kind of disrespectful. This is kind of, like, not a great thing. And sure enough, the spoiled kid continues to just take fistfuls of broccoli and peas and just throwing them all around the place. And the thing is, no one at the restaurant who works there noticed this, because I'm pretty sure they come over and ask him to stop. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they think it's such a great thing. They say, oh, sir, thank you so much for chucking your mushed up vegetables in your hand all over the place. Thank you so much. You're so valuable to our customer service. You add to our atmosphere with all the vegetables flying around. Like, no, dude. Like, no one actually wants that. But this is not as bad as the spoiled kid gets. Because the next thing he does is finally, right, he gets bored. He eats, like, a little bit off his plate. And then he leaves the table. And the spoiled kid's dad is like, spoiled kid, get back here, sit down. We're going to have a nice conversation. He's like, no, shut up, Dad. He just kind of just starts walking around. And that's when Clarence watches as the spoiled kid approaches his table. And Clarence is like, oh my God, like, what's going on here? And Clarence had like a big thing of fries because he got steak, and he got steak with fries on the side. And he sees the spoiled kid come over to the table. And Clarence and his parents are like, hello there. Spoiled kid is like, hello. And he literally takes his big greasy palms and grabs a handful of fries and runs away. And Clarence is like, hey, like, whoa, bro, like, come back. And the thing is, right, he took like 3/4 of the fries. He took most of Clarence's fries. And at this restaurant, the fries were like the greatest fries around. Clarence has been thinking about these fries for weeks. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. The fries are good. So Clarence is upset, and he starts looking over, and he sees the spoiled kid is going table to table, literally taking people's stuff. He's going from table to the next table, to the next table, to the next table, literally just nabbing stuff from people. And people are like, hey, like, what's going on here? And that's when someone gets up and talks to a manager of the restaurant, pointing at the spoiled kid. And Clarence watches as the manager is, like, looking over, the person complaining is pointing at the spoiled kid, and shows the spoiled kid going from table to table, like, grabbing stuff. And that's when the manager walks over to the spoiled kid's parents and says, hey, guys, you got to control your kid. And they're like, hey, like, we've been trying to. He's been so bad. And the manager's like, I mean no disrespect or anything, but if you can't control him, I'm gonna have to ask all of you to leave. And the thing is, the spoiled kid heard this, and the spoiled kid is like, you can't tell me to do anything. And the manager is like, I'm the manager of this restaurant. If you continue to take stuff from people and you don't sit down and eat the dinner like everyone else with your parents, I'm going to have to ask you all to leave. I think it's a pretty fair request. And the spoiled kid gets super angry. He's like, you can't tell me what to do. So the spoiled kid runs away, right? And his parents are like, I'm so sorry, I'll go get him. However, they're not expecting what's about to happen next. And what's about to happen next is that the spoiled kid, bro, the spoiled kid starts running around and like he takes like one of the salt and pepper shakers and chucks it through the window. And the window apparently was like, it was like one of those like glass panel things. It wasn't like a big thick window. It goes right through the glass panel, shatters. And the glass shattering noise is enough to get everyone's attention in the restaurant. So they all turn their heads and they're looking over and they're just like what's going on here? And everyone turns and they look at the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid is literally just standing there. Like he's just standing there watching everyone watch him. And he's next to a big thing of broken glass. And the manager angrily turns to his parents and is like, if you don't control your kid and get him out of here, I'm going to call the police to do that for them. And the parents are like, he's just a kid. Why would you call the police? Shattered glass noise number 2. And they look over and they see the spoiled kid has taken a stool and thrown it through a normal glass window, which is insane, right? And they're like, okay, point proven. So the two parents run over to the spoiled kid and are like, sweetie, we need to go home. And the spoiled kid's like, no, mom and dad, I do what I want because I can do anything. This is my world. And he literally just continues. He takes another chair and his dad is like, spoiled kid, if we go back home, we can get ice cream. And spoiled kid's like, of course we're getting ice cream when we go home. When you take me home, I'm going to get ice cream no matter what. But I want to keep doing what I'm doing right now. So at this point, right, Clarence looks over and sees the manager literally going over and like calling the police at this point. He sees the manager being like, nah, bro, this is not happening. Not in my restaurant. And so sure enough, right, he calls the police. And at this point, the spoiled kid and his parents are like, okay, come on, spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid's like, not today. And he takes another chair, throws it through another window. At this point, right, a lot of people are getting up to leave because this is ridiculous. And sure enough, right, the police do arrive and the spoiled kid doesn't see the police and he picks up another chair when he feels a bit of resistance. Like there's someone else tugging on the chair. So the spoiled kid thinks it's his dad. He's like, don't try and stop me, Dad. And he turns around and he's looking directly at an officer who he's holding onto the chair. And he's like, oh my God. He drops the chair and he runs away. But he runs over to the exit, which is the door. And who do you think is standing in the door? Another officer. And he starts crying. He's like, it wasn't me. It was my parents and that kid. And he points over to Clarence, the subscriber. And Clarence is like, bro, what? You took fries from me and now you're blaming me for causing damages at a restaurant. Anyways, police officers are told by the manager, no, it was this kid. And so anyways, police officers, the manager, the parents, and this kid are all standing around. And they're basically just talking about damages, like how it's going to be settled, how all of that. Basically, the restaurant is 1, banning them from ever coming back, and 2, sending them a bill for, the damages done to the window. And the cops basically say, like, hey, the manager said that, he's not going to press any charges or have any police action against your son, so he won't be going to juvie or anything like that or be on watch or something. But, you need to be a better parent. And they're like, I know. And with that, they left. And, basically, most people at this point had left. Clarence and his parents had finished eating and they were paying the check. And Clarence just looked over. And man, bro just saw a massive, he just saw a massive pile of glass, bro. He just saw a massive pile of glass. And the moral of the story is if you're a parent, sometimes you got to be forceful. Not physically, but sometimes you got to put your foot down and not let your kid run you because they'll turn into something like that. Anyways, if you want to support the channel, go ahead and watch another video after
Click on the video
one.
on
Thank
screen
you.
right
Peace.
now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.